What happens when we put up boundaries and we put space between blood relatives and ourselves, and how common that's becoming? But here's what I want to talk about. There had to have been a relationship prior to any kind of change that was solid enough to withstand new change.
If you're evolving, there's change. And when there's change, there's life, but change produces conflict all the time. Somebody doesn't want that change.
Welcome to Evolve, the #1 podcast about relationships. Join Greg and Leah as they embark on the deep topic of relationships, and not just the romantic ones. Think wider, deeper, broader. Tune in each week as they chat about things like our relationship with food, money, parents, kids, pets, self-esteem, and so much more. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the Evolve episodes. And here we go. This is going to be a podcast on the go. I don't know. Does that sound normal?
On the go.
Welcome to Evolve with
Greg
and Leah.
We're on the way to Pueblo.
Yeah, so we're just, I don't know, it's a bunch of errands we got to do today, and I figured, why not kill two birds with one stone? We got a little bit of a drive ahead of us for 40, 50 minutes maybe, so this seemed a perfect time to throw out a podcast episode. So thank you for joining us. If you are new, this is Evolve with Greg and Leah, and do you want to tell them what Evolve is, if they're brand new here?
So just us evolving from where we've been to where we're going, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. Yeah. And if I'm not looking at you guys, hey, I'm driving.
Yeah,
so.
he does have to focus to keep us alive.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started Evolve last year. This is going to be like episode 41 or something, 40 something. So it's still very young, flourishing, floundering. Not floundering. What's the word?
Could be floundering.
I was thinking of the word for like a youngling, a thing, and it starts with an F. Anyways, I'll probably find it and put it on the bottom here. But today we are going to talk about family estrangement and just what happens because. Let me finish that sentence. What happens when we put up boundaries and we put space between blood relatives and ourselves, and how common that's becoming? So in our last one prior to the episode previous, we talked about when I changed my name and legally going through that process and how that could or could not affect, family members, friends who have known you for a long time. And I was editing it yesterday, and towards the midway half point or a little bit beyond the half point of that episode, we were talking about going into family estrangement and, putting up those boundaries with family. And something I had said, and I want to talk about this more, is especially pulling the name change and this topic together, was how I was sharing that with like my old self and my new self, so to speak, and how they're like on the shoulders. And something I had said in that episode was how my younger self, that older character, sometimes still rises up. There's still pieces of her that are in me and always will be, but I've been working to heal layers of that. And I liked how I said, talking about this issue of family and connections and not having good connections, I like how I said, I'm not ready yet until I can be more of the new character. And
so would you say you have to practice?
Well, I don't know the
it's
answer.
Like you sound like you're practicing before a performance when you talk about a character, and what's the performance? When is the performance? So the performance for the new character is really writing a new story. And I like the idea of us talking about it as like a playwright or a script, of, okay, you got a new character. What is her script? What is her role? And what does she want from life? And I want to be healthy and whole. Hence, like you just said, why we started Evolve was to share our journey, share our evolution through spiritual, emotional, physical, financial, etc. relationships, the relationships with all these things, not just romantic between us, but family, friends, money, pets, etc. So I don't know. I like that I had said in that clip last week that I want to approach relationships, especially familial relationships, with the new person, because I have done it wrong so often. I have pushed in. I have overwhelmed. I have forced a lot of relationship topics and people aren't always ready to go there. I have a clip that I posted a little while ago on social media that said, like, you know, if you are pouring into someone who's like a plate instead of a cup, and you're overflowing them, and you find yourself always on a puddle on the floor, it's because people can only go the depth with you that they can go with themselves.
Right.
And that was like so powerful. And I feel like I'm spitting tons. Can you see that? Like in the sun, I can see all the spit. But I love that quote because, or that sentence, that idea, that thought, that truth, that fact, because I've always been deep. And you've gone deep with me pretty quick. When we first met, that's what you did, was go deep. That's okay. So that didn't sound right. Let me be
That was as
clear.
bad as this morning.
Let me clarify. How did we go deep? You clarify that. Fix that for me.
Well, I was at a point in my life where I was just done with the way I had to do it, or the way I was doing it, and looking for a way to do it correctly.
Right.
So diving deep was diving deep into study, whether it be and at that time, the only manual, so to speak, to do it right was the Bible.
In our life at that time, correct? Yeah.
Well, in my life, all the time, I was like,
Yeah.
I was not as religiously brought up as you were, but at the same time, the Bible was the baseline. You know, like you don't go below this, and you don't. So anyway.
So we studied. I mean, a ton.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
and this was, we weren't in a dating, quote unquote, relationship. We met via your cousin. Which, if you want to know our story, I will show you. I'll put the here and here, those two episodes, because I believe they were in two parts. That's our story of how we met.
The story was on the way to where we're going now.
No, actually, we're heading north and west, east that
I
time.
thought we were going to
No.
Pueblo. Oh.
But yeah, we actually recorded those. They weren't video; they were just audio because we were on the road at the time and didn't want to do this setup. But yeah, how we met was just, very quickly. We bonded very quickly. I don't think either of us was necessarily looking for a relationship, but
No.
one evolved over a course of a year, and the bond that got there. But anyways, bringing all that back to the fact that we went deep quickly, emotionally and spiritually and mentally. Like, we challenged each other to grow and keep growing. So Evolve, really, even though that's a new podcast for us,
We've
been the
been
theme of our life
It has.
from day one.
So, and part of evolving is what brings us into this topic today.
Thank you for bringing it back. Yes.
Is it family estrangement, or for lack of better words, just estrangement from people altogether?
It's true, yes. I
Because
think that's a better
as you evolve,
topic. Yeah.
if you're evolving, there's change, and when there's change, there's life, but change produces conflict all the time. Somebody doesn't want that change, and or won't accept the change, regardless of what side. I mean, how many times have we changed, and all of a sudden we're all upset with the people who didn't change? So it's on both sides of the coin.
Someone in our life has changed as well, and maybe they've grown away or apart from us, and we were like, what's wrong with us? Like, it hurt our feelings or upset us.
And it had really nothing to do with us. Because
Correct,
as
right.
we've talked in other episodes, us is the only thing we're thinking about. No one else is thinking about us.
We think everyone's thinking about us. We've talked about that, I think, in the last episode or other episodes of the spotlight theory, where we think everyone's focused on us, and that's just not the truth. Nobody's thinking about you as much as you. But
No,
I
not at
like
all.
that. I think I will even kind of revisit or rename all of this too, of not just family estrangement, but just
Estrangement.
estrangement. And really, I like I'd like to find a better word. Even estrangement has such a negative sound to it, where
disconnecting. I mean, think about we lived all the way on the other side of the country.
right.
How can you keep the same connections regardless of the relationship? Long distance.
So here's what I want to talk about. There had to have been a relationship prior to
Yes.
any kind of change that was solid enough to withstand new change.
Well, correct, right.
And in our situation, in our stories,
We change quick.
we do change quick. So I actually had someone in my family, I think it was a nephew, I believe, who was just like, man, they change so fast. Like, I don't know what they're thinking. They're always changing their mind. They're changing their beliefs. They're changing everything. And it's the truth. And I love that about us. Like, I have to say, like, at first I felt bad when I heard that comment, and I thought, oh my God, like, we're wishy-washy and nobody can, everyone looks at us as stupid or, not worth following or being part of, but then I was like, no, actually we've been open-minded long before we were actually open-minded.
There's a mantra,
in so many ways.
There's a mantra that I listen to quite often. It says, change is a sign of life, and I choose life. If you're changed is what, and it's easy to see the changes when you live in an area that has seasonal changes. You can tell
that's
the
true.
changes. That's a good idea. I'm very thirsty.
So I have heard on both sides of the fence when it comes to, we'll still call it family estrangement or estrangement in general until I can come up with a better word or term. I've kind of heard both sides at different times. When I post things on social media, sometimes I'll get comments and some people will be like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing this. Like, I've struggled with the fact that I'm not close with my mom, or I'm not close with my siblings, or my dad, or my best friend who used to be my best friend. I really needed your support in this. Thank you for seeing me, hearing me. And then I've also had comments that are like, maybe more, and it sounds like more of the parent side, possibly, or the older person side at the time. And they're like, one of the comments said, yeah, but sometimes they're just spoiled kids. And they have their issues, and this is ridiculous. And I said, yeah, that is true. Because maybe there is people in situations that they emotionally just can't handle the relationship. And they, like I have in my past, handled it very badly. And there might be kids who are spoiled rotten or just brats, or just, we were watching something the other day and it was like the rich, wealthy kid that was not really affected by his protest issue at all, but he just wanted something to protest and whine about. And I get that. I get that there are people out there who have they've had a great life and they're upset because mommy didn't do, like, give them their allowance as an adult or something. I get that there is two sides. And I get that there's also two sides to,
well,
being the person put out, so to speak, and put a boundary against that you can't be in that space. It's happened to me in my past with a sibling that felt really slighted. And that's probably putting it lightly in a specific situation. I don't want to be too specific at all because it doesn't really matter. But I kept trying to, I couldn't figure out why they were distancing themselves from me. And I finally connected with them. I kept trying to call. I kept trying to email. I kept trying to stop by, and they just weren't responding. And finally I got an email and they said, I'm really upset with you right now. This thing that happened never should have happened. And I would like you to leave me and my family alone for a while. And 6 months at least of just no contact. And I was devastated and crushed because, one, I didn't even get to say my side. I was like, wait a minute. Let me talk instead of just you assuming this is the whole situation. But I wasn't given that chance. And then the death in the family occurred and we reconnected within seconds. Now, granted, we didn't get to go back to the topic as thoroughly as I would have liked, because I am somebody who's like, let's go deep, let's go quick, let's talk all this out till it's better.
Well, you always want to be justified, and I think,
that's a thing too. That's why I came at it so wrong.
Not just you in general, but people in general. Every action we do just wants to be justified,
validated.
Why do we? I mean, everybody lies, and why do we lie? Self-preservation.
Correct.
To be justified. To maybe
protect ourselves.
Yeah. It is protect ourselves from an untruth or something that we, whatever. So that's a side note there, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. I mean, honestly, it's just this. I need you to hear my side so you don't have this opinion about me. And
how
sometimes people don't.
It's so necessary sometimes until you just fucking don't care.
What's necessary?
To be justified. I mean, if your actions, the story is going to be written no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Somebody else's story about the situation. That's, everybody says there's two sides to every story and one side to every fact. Yeah, that's the thing. Everyone's
There's
story, so many truths.
And everyone's side is their truth. And I think that was hard for me to comprehend at a younger age, for sure.
I was listening to something about that Mike Lagasse, the scientist guy. He was talking about in a courtroom, he could not be a witness because he everything you say is regurgitated in your head, and it's turned around to something different. So
I've heard this too. Like, a memory is part of the memory plus all the times you've mentioned it and all those emotions and all that. So memories are very unreliable. So it's not being a witness. I mean, we've seen this ourselves, and 5 different people could see a car accident.
Just
everyone
so
sees.
Your hand goes right in my face.
Every witness of a car accident, for an example, sees something different, a different color car, a different person, and that's how unreliable our brain and our eyes can actually be at times.
What he was
and our
trying
memory.
to prove, he says, so you cannot. If you have only one eyewitness, he says, forget about it. I will not convict somebody because there's only one eyewitness, because
it's just wrong. But I don't know. I even think with multiple eyewitnesses. But even still, getting back to, estrangement, and when people put up those boundaries and say, please don't come any closer, it is very painful. It is. I've been on both sides. I've also been the person who had to put up a boundary and say, I don't think I can have a relationship right now. I need my space, and I know it's hurt other people. But I think, going back to the story of when I was the one pushed aside and pushed out because someone needed their space to process, to feel okay, my older self, and this is where, going back to what I opened with, is just my older self versus my current self, that older character, those older narratives, those older stories versus the new person I'm working to become, is the older self would always just keep pushing and like aggravate someone. I've done it even in our relationship when we're upset in the beginning when we'd fight. And I remember one time chasing you downstairs after a really bad fight in the upstairs in the bedroom or bathroom or something, and I'm like, no, we're gonna talk. And you're like, if you don't get away from me right now, this is not gonna be good. And because I always want resolution, immediate resolution. Let me say this, rephrase it.
Yeah.
The old character, the old story needs immediate resolution because she often felt already secluded, already outcasted, already unwanted, already too much for people in the family. So the story she wrote was, let's fix this now. I don't like the awkwardness that this feels. So the new character, the new story, the new narratives I'm working on are, let's not come back to this till we're both ready. All parties are ready. And that may be never.
Well, can you accept? I remember that situation you're talking about, and the advice that was given to you at the time.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
What things do you have in common? And start there.
Yeah.
Start there. What island? You're trying to jump on their island, and they're like, hell no. You just crashed into my
and
ship.
not just not just going into their island. I'm asking them to come to a space and a place that they can't or won't, and just aren't able to.
So if in an instance, and you have to find out the parameter of where that is. You have to map it out. I have a relationship with somebody that I realize it's more of memes and texting than it is anything else. And so I want to give back the same energy that I don't want to overdo my energy in the same process. I also want to restore my energy only to people who want it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's where, I have to grab it. Where is it? It's on my phone. That's all right. I'll try to remember how it goes. But I was actually with a peer coach going through some of this and thinking, oh my gosh, because sometimes with certain family that maybe you've put a boundary up and you've said, I'm going to take my space and we're not going to connect, we're not going to talk, we're not going to text, whatever the depth is. And there's layers to
you and I
kind
did
of
that. You and I did that very damn same thing right before we got married. We put a boundary for 7 days, and we broke the boundary after 5. But we were not going to have any contact with each other. And be able to get away from each other and think and focus on what we want.
Are you talking about when we were going to get married?
Yes.
Yeah, to see what is it I want from
that
this relationship.
That was a mutual boundary set.
Correct. And that's the thing. I think Well, what was I going to say? Oh, talking to my peer coach at one time about like some of the relationships in my life. If you are someone who has the boundary and you've set the boundary, and you might have these same thoughts as well at different times of just, I kind of miss like this person. Maybe I should open this relationship. Maybe I should institute a conversation. Maybe I should initiate, the first text or the first call or something. And I loved what my coach said to me. She said, first think, what will this relationship bring me that I'm missing? And then second, the energy that it might take to get this relationship to a healthy place. Do I have that energy? And
are you willing?
Where will it be taken from? Let's say we only have 100, bars of energy, 100%. And you got to use 50 at work and 100 or 20 over here, 5 over here. Where will that energy and possibly what other relationship will it take from? And I don't just mean energy, but maybe time. If you got to restore a relationship, it's going to take some time. That again, it might be on the phone, it might be in person. Do you have the time and the energy to do this, to rebuild this relationship in a way that's healthier? And so the first question,
is it worth it?
Is it worth it? But the first question is, what are you missing? What is this relationship going to bring to your life that you feel you are missing? And really evaluating that question and that answer for yourself. So let's say it's a family member and you're just like, oh, I really miss my dad. And there's no other person that can fill that gap for me as my dad. And just being able to answer, why does your dad need to fill that space? What is it that you're not getting from him that you feel he's the only one that can fill that? So I don't know. I love those two questions. I keep them saved on my phone just so I can go back to them anytime I'm kind of vacillating with like, do
really
I open this up or?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Were you going to say something else?
No, I just was going to say that's interesting.
Oh.
I don't want to say anything else.
So we each have people in our lives that either we've had a boundary set up and we don't have relationships with, that the other party has said like, and not just saying, it doesn't always have to come through words or connection, like space, like proximity, distance. Sometimes it's just lack of initiation that is not setting a boundary verbally is setting a boundary. So in your situation, it would be sometimes, or in both of our situations, where it's someone does not return text or information, or they don't initiate any. That is them saying, I don't want to go in that space with you. Does that make sense? Like somebody just, they're not connecting with you is a boundary. And I've overpushed those at different times too. And sometimes I still have to, with the new character, remind myself like, okay, are you initiating contact with this person? Even just an acquaintance. Are you doing it out of something that I'm lacking, that I feel that's missing, or that I want some kind of special pat on the back or recognition? So like, for example, I could text someone and just did recently, like that I know was hurting. This is an acquaintance. And I'm like, hey, I'm just checking in on you, seeing how you're feeling. And the message is still unopened and unread, actually it's read but not responded. Let me say it that way. And that's their boundary. For me to push any more messages or check again, I'm now invading that boundary. This what do you do when you're in these situations then?
What's happening? You're in a situation. It's excuse me. Currently, right now, what's happening? Is anybody reaching out to you? So like I said before, the very first thing we should do is analyze where are those common areas at? And who's made the last initiation on those areas? What can I do? Am I interested in? And tiptoe lightly, I guess, if you're willing to go forward with that.
And that's,
relationship.
you were saying that before, finding those common grounds.
Take an inventory.
I was someone who the common ground was not enough for me. That's my old character, my old story. The common ground was not enough because I needed to talk everything out. If there was anything between us, any kind of space, any kind of awkwardness, any kind of undiscussed, undisclosed information, I wanted it all out. I wanted everybody to know everything and everyone be on the same page. So I think there's a couple of things here
and that was a time frame when you thought there was only one truth.
Correct.
And that was all there was.
Correct.
And there was no other way. You were trying to get someone to look at something at your perspective of something that already happened.
And I think
Never going to change.
I think that is a lot of people. We really think that my truth is the truth. And I need you to show me that you agree with that truth so that we can move forward. And yeah, that was very much, I was a black and white person. I didn't have a lot of gray areas. I didn't have a lot of openness. I didn't have a lot of, willingness to meet halfway. And that's why I'm saying, like, old me has done it wrong. And in last week's episode of just saying, until new me can get it right, I'm not going to go further. I'm not going to make any other steps yet. I also want to add on to what you're saying you're saying evaluate the common areas. I also want to say evaluate the past. What has the relationship offered and been in the past?
Take inventory to find out first whether, one, you want to even pursue this, and then one, or two. and then and then learn how to count. Allow that. Don't be pushing. If you've been the pushy one, then allow them to make the first contact. And if they don't, accept that.
So here's a question I have for the audience, the listener, as well as just you, and you might have some really great insight for myself, because my old character, new character, old script, new script, old narratives, new narratives. So yes, I have done it so wrong in the past. Should I, or should you, if you're in my shoes, let people know that you want to try differently, that you're open to trying differently, that you are a new person, and what do you think about that? Like opening the door, opening the box, the Pandora's box, so to speak, again, and saying like, hey, like reaching out and saying, I don't know where you're at.
I just told you, if you've been the one that's been the pushy one, then no, don't do shit. Evaluate whether you want to do it or not, and if you do, wait, be patient.
So don't make the initial contact in that sense.
No, because if it's meant to be, it'll be. That energy has got to, go somewhere. So you will attract that. The thing that you're chasing is chasing you. I saw this video yesterday. This tactic this girl used to win the race. So she goes around. It's a long ass run. Well, most of the racers start out with a really slow pace. She bolts out fucking right out the bat.
Oh, jeez.
And goes hog ass wild around the rink until she catches up to the last person, and then just paces. By the time they get around, they forgot she was in last place. She was really in first place.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was like, what the hell?
What a strategy.
What a strategy. She actually beat the shit out. They all thought they were all like running their ass off, and she's in first place the whole time.
Okay.
But she busted her ass at first. But I don't know, how did that connect to whatever we're talking about?
I don't know, so I'll give you a minute to think about that. You obviously thought about it to connect to something.
Well, the idea was, you're talking about, what the hell were we talking about?
Initiating
and
the energy.
Her tactic was just to be that energy got around, came back around. That's what I'm saying. What goes around comes around.
What goes around comes around. Maybe it worked. Maybe it fits. I'm not sure.
Your turn. Continue on.
I'm thinking.
Okay. A lot of editing in this one, huh?
And this is where I like I said, I know there's still layers of my old self and story and narratives that I don't like, want to improve and evolve and change and improve. There's like, when you're saying don't do anything, there's that part of me still that's in my head that's like, no, I have to at least let them know I've changed. I have to at least let them know I'm working on being better.
We did that very same thing, you and I. We were not going to get together. We could have when we first met.
Yeah.
And then, what if you go through the what if she doesn't want to come see me? So you have to, it's a battle. And I know for a fact, had I not said, okay, you do whatever the hell you want, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Now, I meant that, but did I mean that 1,000%? Hells no. I was so scared still. But it just you have to come to that place, and you have to do that. It is.
And that's what I'm saying. I know I'm going to. I know I'm going to do it right. I'm going to use my energy in the best way possible for me with my new character, new script, new narratives. But I can't lie that those old thoughts are still there.
God, yes.
But they need to know I'm here. They need to know I'm open to talk. They need to know that I'm improving. They need to know that I'm working on a new story, that I want to do things differently. How else will they know if I don't tell them?
Why is it though? Something about the energy of when you stop chasing.
When you let go. Yeah.
When you let go, it all of a sudden calls you.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something to do with what is that formula called, or the law of attraction? Law of attraction. Right?
Possibly. Yeah.
That'd be a good episode to talk about.
But it's true, the things that I've let go of, genuinely let go of, and even in your example of our relationship, if you go back and listen to that episode 1 or 2, or 1 and 2 maybe it was, of the podcast, that you had to come to a place that I want to be with you, but I'll be okay without you. And not saying that with an attitude of, I want to be with you, and I'll be fine without you, you bitch.
It wasn't that way.
It wasn't that energy, and that doesn't. I think what I need to process and accept for myself is that even moving forward, it's okay to still have that fear, to have insecurities, to have the level of narrative that's oh man, but what if they don't? And it's okay that those feelings or thoughts exist.
Think about that.
I'm not acting on
them. What
them.
if they don't? Okay, then they don't.
Then they don't.
You got to come to that. I mean, the fear of what if they don't, play it out in your head. What if they don't? What would life be without this person?
Well, and the honest truth is, if you are estranged from a friend or a family or acquaintance, and you wish you could have that relationship back, but there isn't one now, what if they don't? It just is what it stays the same.
Yeah.
If you don't have them in your life currently,
you're not losing anything.
What are we losing? And I guess that's where just really accepting that for myself. But like I said, also just being able to accept that there is a little bit of fear there. There is a little bit of insecurity still. There is a little bit of that, what if they don't ever reconnect with me and they really don't want me? It's okay to have those there and just to accept that it's all right.
Well, what about the other side of the coin? Those relationships that you and I both have that anybody has. That the people that come to your house without being invited, and all of a sudden they're in your front. And you're like, what the fuck are they doing here? And you can't. You gotta get mad and say no. But what about being on that side where you've put the boundaries and they keep pounding and pounding and pounding their...
And how that feels.
How does that feel?
And that's where, as a life coach, I work with youth and stuff. And one of my youth, actually all of them, I will say, I've always done this, even with adults and stuff too. I will also say that I've always played devil's advocate. I do that when we're in the car, and
God, it
and
pisses
Greg's
me off.
upset because this person's moving slow in front of us, and I'll be like, you don't know what's going on in the car. What's the conversation? Put yourself in their shoes. Maybe they just got fired from their job, and they don't know how they're going to pay their next bill.
Do you know it's a very stoic principle?
It is, but using it in the proper way and places is important. But I've done that with my coaching and just been like, hey, I know you're upset with so and so. What does it feel like to be in their shoes? And you're just saying it now, being on the other side where someone's pushing in those boundaries and pushing their way into your life, physically, emotionally.
It is really freaking
it's
annoying.
Oh my gosh, they don't seem to understand. I don't want this relationship.
I remember this girl it was high school. I was in 10th grade and she was in 9th grade, but she was a freshman. Oh my God. She called me every day, all the time.
On the telephone?
Telephone.
Oh.
She got my phone number. She was always asking everybody about me. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
She was attractive enough. I mean, but it was just constant.
Yeah. I mean, and I will say, that's the energy of neediness and lack.
The next year, come back from
summer
break. And she blossomed oh my God. But she didn't have one. She had nothing to do. want nothing to do with me.
And then you wanted her.
Yep, it did.
And again, we're back to that letting go and that energy of, release, and I'm okay without this.
So I was the one that she let go, and I was the one who wanted
And they're like, oh, now I want you back. So it is true that when I'm operating out of a space of lack or fear, insecurity, I am vibrating, emanating a complete
fear, doubt.
But I'm also emanating some, like a repulsive
Right,
energy.
yeah.
And like you're saying, we've had people in our life who might just they're not on our page.
Like, I
and we're
remember
not
going
wanting
to a
to be that
seminar,
close.
and like, how do we get here in this table with these people?
Oh yeah. We're like, this wasn't the energy of people we wanted to be around, and obviously we must have been emanating that at the time.
I don't know.
And we do find ourselves at the reject table a lot. So that's the old characters. We're working on new ones here. But I want to just wrap it up. I hope that some part of this encouraged you, regardless of where you're at in this. Do you think we touched on the other side of the person who's like, it's not fair that I've been pushed out? Do you think we touched on that?
I don't think we touched on it enough, but we could probably get back at it later. I don't know.
I don't know how close we are to our first destination here, but I don't know. This has been on my heart. I wanted to talk about it a lot, but also we've kind of avoided it for a little while too, because we do have probably 98% of our family and our friends from the past we have zero connection with. 2% or maybe 1% we have just text and meme connection, and then there is 1% of family that we actually connect with, talk to on the phone almost daily, regularly, and we both have pretty big families, so that's been an adjustment in many ways. But some of it's been our choice, probably most of it's been our choice, some has been others' choices. So it's been a really hard topic. We've kind of been like, let's not talk about it yet. But I'm still evolving. We're still evolving in this. We're still trying to apply all the stuff we've said. I mean, because even in your relationships, in your family, there's times where you'll ask me, should I do more? Maybe I should do more. And then I'll get in coaching mode. We coach each other through these different things, and I'll be like, okay, so what's the motivation for the connection? And you have to sift that out. And
going back to what your coach said to you,
what in your life is missing that this is going to fill?
Yeah, and that's tough because there's all kinds of different relationships out there that I mean, brother, sister,
parent, child,
friend, ex-wife, ex-husband, all those things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's relationships suck sometimes.
It's true. And they all take work and energy, and all parties need to be willing to put in work and energy. And if you don't got it, you don't got it. If someone doesn't have it, it's okay. And giving them that permission to not want to work on this right now. So there was something I wanted to say real fast. I was just going to say it when you were talking, and now I forget. I don't know. I do feel like this is a topic that there could be so much to it, so many layers, so many different points of view, so many opinions.
We certainly went through a bunch of bunny rabbit trails. So
yeah. So again, we could always come back to it. I'd love to hear some comments, some feedback, and be kind if you have comments, regardless of where you fall on your, what side of the fence here.
There's no reason not to be kind for any reason. I mean,
that's true.
Unless you're me and haven't been kind all your life.
That still is not an excuse to not be kind.
I tried.
But we'll definitely talk more about this as we continue to evolve and grow ourselves. And until next time, we would love you to, what is it you want to say?
Subscribe, like, and please comment.
Kindly comment. And share your story if you are in a similar situation on either side of this fence. And until next time,
Evolving.
be evolving.